ləɡɡwɑːrdiə Airport, ləːɡwɑːrdiə, is an international airport in the northern part of the New York City borough of Queens in the United States. The airport is on the waterfront of Flushing Bay and Bowery Bay in East Elmhurst and borders the neighborhoods of East Elmhurst, Astoria, and Jackson Heights. LaGuardia Airport covers 680 acres in total. The New York City metropolitan area's JFK International, LaGuardia, and Newark Liberty International airports combine to create the largest airport system in the United States, second in the world in terms of passenger traffic, and first in the world in terms of total flight operations. In 2011, the airport handled 24.1 million passengers. In 2015, LaGuardia Airport had a strong growth in passenger traffic. About 31.4 million passengers used the airport, a 14.2% increase from the previous year. JFK handled 58.8 million and Newark handled 40.5 million, a total of about 129.7 million travelers using New York airports. In addition, LaGuardia is the busiest airport in the United States without any non-stop service to Europe. A perimeter rule prohibits non-stop flights to or from points beyond 1,500 statute miles, but exceptions to the perimeter rule are flights on Saturdays and flights to Denver. Most transcontinental flights use JFK and Newark, as do all international flights except those from airports within the perimeter that also have United States border pre-clearance. There is no border control facility at the airport. Glenn H. Curtis Airport, later renamed North Beach Airport, was the earlier airport at this location. The name was changed after New York City's takeover and reconstruction to New York Municipal Airport LaGuardia Field, and in 1953 became LaGuardia Airport, named for Fiorello LaGuardia, the mayor of New York when the airport was built. LaGuardia has been criticized for some of its outdated facilities. Vice President Joe Biden compared LaGuardia to a third world country, and the airport has been ranked in numerous customer surveys as the worst in the United States. Among pilots, it is referred to as LaGuardia because the runways are short and surrounded by water, thus giving the feel of landing on an aircraft carrier. On July 27, 2015, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced a reconstruction plan that would completely replace the existing airport. History. Construction. The site of the airport was originally used by the Gala amusement park, owned by the Steinway family. It was razed and transformed in 1929 into a 105-acre private flying field named Glenn H. Curtis Airport after the pioneer Long Island aviator, later called North Beach Airport. The initiative to develop the airport for commercial flights began with an outburst by New York Mayor Fiorello LaGuardia upon the arrival of his TWA flight at Newark Airport, the only commercial airport serving the New York City region at the time. As his ticket said New York, he demanded to be taken to New York, and ordered the plane to be flown to Brooklyn's Floyd Bennett Field, giving an impromptu press conference to reporters along the way. He urged New Yorkers to support a new airport within the city. American Airlines accepted LaGuardia's offer to start a trial program of scheduled flights to Floyd Bennett, although the program failed after several months because of Newark's better proximity to Manhattan. LaGuardia went as far as to offer police escorts to airport limousines in an attempt to get American Airlines to continue operating the trial program. During the Floyd Bennett experiment, LaGuardia and American executives began an alternative plan to build a new airport in Queens, where it could take advantage of the new Queens Midtown Tunnel to Manhattan. The existing North Beach Airport was an obvious location, but but much too small from the sort of airport that was being planned. With backing and assistance from the Works Progress Administration, construction began in 1937. Building on the site required moving landfill from Rikers Island, then a garbage dump, onto a metal reinforcing framework. The framework below the airport still causes magnetic interference on the compasses of outgoing aircraft. Signs on the airfield warn pilots about the problem. Because of Americans' pivotal role in the development of the airport, LaGuardia gave the airline extra real estate during the airport's first year of operation, including 4 hangars, which was an unprecedented amount of space at the time. American opened its first Admirals Club at the airport in 1939. The club took over a large office space that had previously been reserved for the mayor, but he offered it for lease following criticism from the press, and American Vice President Red Mosier immediately accepted the offer. The airport was dedicated on October 15, 1939 as the New York Municipal Airport, and opened for business on December 2 of that year. It cost New York City $23 million to turn the tiny North Beach Airport into a 550-acre modern facility. Not everyone was as enthusiastic as LaGuardia about the project. Some regarded it as a $40 million boondoggle, but the public was fascinated by the very idea of air travel, and thousands traveled to the airport, paid the dime fee, and watched the airliners take off and land. 2 years later, these fees and their associated parking had already provided $285,000, and other non-travel related incomes were another $650,000 a year. The airport was soon a financial success. A smaller airport in nearby Jackson Heights, Holmes Airport, was unable to prevent the expansion of the larger airport and closed in 1940. Newark Airport began renovations but could not keep up with the new Queens Airport, which Time called the most pretentious land and seaplane base in the world. Even before the project was completed, LaGuardia had won commitments from the 5 largest airlines that they would begin using the new field as soon as it opened. Pan Am's transatlantic Boeing 314 flying boats moved to LaGuardia from Port Washington in 1940. During World War II, the airport was used to train aviation technicians and as a logistics field. Transatlantic landplane airline flights started in late 1945. Some continued after Idlewild opened in July 1948, but the last ones shifted to Idlewild in April 1951. Newspaper accounts alternately referred to the airfield as New York Municipal Airport and LaGuardia Field until the modern name was officially applied when the airport moved to Port of New York Authority control under a lease with New York City on June 1, 1947. LaGuardia opened with 4 runways at 45-degree angles to each other, the longest being 6,000 feet. Runway 1836 was closed soon after a United DC-4 ran off the south end in 1947. Runway 927 was closed around 1958, allowing LaGuardia's terminal to expand northward after 1960. Circa 1961, runway 1331 was shifted northeastward to allow construction of a parallel taxiway, and in 1965-66 both remaining runways were extended to the present 7,000 feet. The April 1957 official airline guide shows 283 weekday fixed-wing departures from LaGuardia, 126 American, 49 Eastern, 33 Northeast, 31 TWA, 29 Capital and 15 United. American's flights included 26 non-stops to Boston and 27 to Washington National. Jet flights started on June 1, 1964. Later development. Although LaGuardia was a large airport for the era in which it was built, it soon became too small. Starting in 1968, general aviation aircraft were charged heavy fees to operate from LaGuardia during peak hours, driving many car operators to airports such as Teterboro Airport in Teterboro, New Jersey. The increase in traffic at LaGuardia and safety concerns prompted the closure of nearby Flushing Airport in 1984. Also in 1984, to further combat overcrowding at LGA, the Port Authority instituted a Sunday through Friday perimeter rule, banning non-stop flights from LaGuardia to cities more than 1,500 miles away. At the time, Denver was the only such city with non-stop flights, and it became the only exception to the rule. Later, the Port Authority also moved to connect JFK and Newark Airport to regional rail networks with the AirTrain Newark and AirTrain JFK, in an attempt to make these more distant airports competitive with LaGuardia. In addition to these local regulations, the FAA also limited the number of flights and types of aircraft that could operate at LaGuardia. LaGuardia's traffic continued to grow. By 2000, the airport routinely experienced overcrowding delays, many more than an hour long. That year, Congress passed legislation to revoke the federal traffic limits on LaGuardia. By 2007, the reduced demand for air travel following the September 11, 2001, terrorist attacks on New York City quickly slowed LaGuardia's traffic growth, helping to mitigate the airport's delays. Ongoing Port Authority investments to renovate the central terminal building and improve the airfield layout have also made the airport's operations more efficient in recent years. FAA-approved instrument departure procedure, Whitestone Climb, and the expressway visual approach to runway 31, which both overfly Citi Field. In late 2006, construction began to replace the air traffic control tower built in 1962 with a more modern one. The tower began operations on October 9, 2010. Delta U.S. Airways slot swap. On August 12, 2009, Delta Airlines and U.S. Airways announced a landing slot and terminal swap in separate press releases. Under the swap plan, U.S. Airways would have given Delta 125 operating slot pairs at LaGuardia. U.S. Airways, in return, would have received 42 operating slot pairs at Ronald Reagan National Airport in Washington, D.C., and be granted the authority to begin service from the U.S. to São Paulo, Brazil and Tokyo, Japan. When the swap plan was complete, Delta shuttle operations would have moved from the Marine Air Terminal to Terminal C, and Terminals C and D would have been connected together. U.S. Airways shuttle flights would have moved to the Marine Air Terminal, and mainline U.S. Airways flights would have moved to Terminal D. The United States Department of Transportation announced that they would approve the Delta U.S. Airways transaction under the condition that they sell slots to other airlines. Delta and U.S. Airways dropped the slot swap deal in early July 2010, and both airlines filed a court appeal. In May 2011, both airlines announced that they would resubmit the proposal of the slot swap to the U.S. It was tentatively approved by the U.S. on July 21, 2011. The slot swap received final approval from the U.S. on October 10, 2011. On December 16, 2011, Delta Airlines announced plans to open a new domestic hub at LaGuardia Airport. The investment was the largest single expansion by any carrier at LaGuardia in decades, with total flights increasing by more than 60%, and total destinations by more than 75%. By summer 2013, Delta increased operations to 264 daily flights between LaGuardia and more than 60 cities, more than any other airline. Delta invested $100 million to renovate terminals C and D in LaGuardia, where it now operates a total of 32 gates. A 600-foot connector bridge has been built, linking the two terminals. Delta also converted the then U.S. Airways Lounge in Terminal C to a Delta Sky Club, while continuing to operate its current Sky Club in Terminal D. U.S. Airways built a new club, placed next door to their old lounge, which has since become an American Airlines Admirals Club. Reconstruction. In April 2010, Port Authority Director Christopher Ward announced that the agency had hired consultants to explore a full demolition and rebuilding of LaGuardia's Central Terminal. The project would create a unified, modern, and efficient plan for the airport, currently an amalgam of decades of additions and modifications. The project, expected to cost $2.4 billion, will include the demolition of the existing Central Terminal building and its 4 concourses, garage, hangar 1, and frontage roads, building temporary facilities, and designing and building a new Central Terminal building. The rebuilding would be staged in phases in order to maintain operations throughout the project. Proposals were due on January 31, 2012. Patrick Foy, executive director of the Port Authority, said, "It's got a quaint, nostalgic but unacceptable kind of 1940s, 1950s feel that's just not acceptable." The Port Authority was seeing a private company to develop and operate the replacement terminal with private funds, similar to how Delta operates the other terminals at the airport. However, in January 2014, Governor Andrew Cuomo announced a plan for the state to oversee construction of the long-stalled new terminal project instead of the proposed public-private partnership. On July 27, 2015, Governor Andrew Cuomo, joined by Vice President of the United States Joe Biden, announced a $4 billion plan that would rebuild the terminals as one contiguous building with terminal bridges connecting buildings. Airport officials and planners had concluded that the airport essentially had to be torn down and rebuilt. Plan details. Under the plan, a single unified terminal building is to be constructed in stages, with a people mover, retail space and a new hotel. Some 2 miles of additional taxiways would be built. A people mover would connect the new terminal sections. The Grand Central Parkway would be reconfigured, and AirTrain LaGuardia, previously announced, will connect the airport to the Met's Willets Point subway station and the Met's Willets Point LIRR station. A proposed high-speed ferry will service the Marine Air Terminal, a National Historic Landmark, which will remain intact. The new airport would be eco-friendly and contain accommodations such as a hotel and a business conference center. The entire airport will move 600 feet closer to the Grand Central Parkway. New parking garages will replace the parking facilities between the existing terminals and Grand Central Parkway, creating space for the new facilities. By locating the terminals closer to the Grand Central Parkway, additional space for aircraft taxiways and hold areas will be created, reducing ground delays. The runways themselves will not be reconfigured. Construction of the project's first half is expected to start in 2016, once final plans are approved by the Port Authority Board, with completion scheduled for 2021. Terminal B would be demolished, and Delta Airlines will rebuild its terminals C and D in coordination with the plan. The The new airport will feature an island gate system, with passengers connecting between the terminal building and the gates via bridges that will be high enough for aircraft to taxi under. In late March 2016, the comprehensive plans for the redevelopment were approved unanimously, with construction costs estimated to range from $4 billion to $5.3 billion in total. The first phase of construction will begin in spring of 2016, with the entire redevelopment scheduled to be completed by 2021. Terminals. LaGuardia has 4 terminals connected by buses and walkways. Signage throughout the terminals was designed by Paul Meixenar. As with the other Port Authority airports, some terminals at LaGuardia are managed and maintained by airlines themselves. Terminals A and D and most of Terminal C are operated by Delta Airlines, with Terminal B under direct Port Authority operation. Terminal A, the Marine Air Terminal, was the airport's original terminal for overseas flights. The waterside terminal was designed to serve the fleet of flying boats, or clippers, of Pan American Airways, America's main international airline throughout the 1930s and 1940s. When a clipper would land in Long Island Sound, it would taxi up to a dock where passengers would disembark into the terminal. During World War II, new 4-engine land planes were developed, and flying boats stopped carrying scheduled passengers out of New York after 1947. The last Pan American flight left the terminal in February 1952, bound for Bermuda. The terminal is home of the largest mural created during the Roosevelt-era Works Progress Administration federal art project. Created by New York artist James Brooks, the mural, Flight, encircles the upper rotunda walls, telling the story of man's conquest of the heavens up through 1942, when the work was completed. During the 1950s, many WPA artists were thought to be in collusion with communists. Several works of art that had been created for post offices and other public facilities were therefore destroyed. Likewise, Flight was completely painted over with wall paint by the Port Authority of New York and AMP, New Jersey. In the late 1970s, Jeffrey Arendt, an aviation historian and author of Great Airports, LaGuardia, mounted a campaign to restore the mural to its original splendor. With the help of Brooks, LaGuardia Airport manager Tim Pierce, and donations from Reader's Digest founders DeWitt Wallace and Lawrence Rockefeller, Flight was rededicated in 1980. In 1986, Pan Am restarted flights at the MAT with the purchase of New York Air's shuttle service between Boston, New York City, and Washington, D.C. In 1991, Delta Airlines bought the Pan Am shuttle and subsequently started service from the MAT on September 1. In 1995, the MAT was designated as a historic landmark. A $7 million restoration was completed in time for the airport's 65th anniversary of commercial flights on December 2, 2004. Along with the Delta Shuttle, General Aviation operates from the terminal through fixed-base operator Shelter. Terminal B, the central terminal building, serves most of LaGuardia's airlines. It is 6 blocks long, consisting of a 4-story central section, 2 3-story wings and 4 concourses with 40 aircraft gates. The $36 million facility, designed by Harrison and AMP Abramovitz, was dedicated on April 17, 1964. Delta and U.S. Airways left the CTB in 1983 and 1992 respectively to their own dedicated terminals on the east side of the airport. The Port Authority and various airlines have carried out a $340 million improvement project in the 1990s and early 2000s to expand and renovate the existing space. Terminal C, the 300,000 square foot, designed by William Nicholas Bowery plus Associates Architects and Planners, was opened September 12, 1992, at a cost of $250 million. The original tenant was intended to be Eastern Airlines, but when Eastern was forcibly bankrupt in an effort by parent Texas Air Corporation to merge its assets with that of sister airline Continental Airlines, Continental assumed the leases. Continental never moved in, as it sold its leases and most of its ləɡɡwɑːrdiə slots to U.S. Airways as part of Continental's bankruptcy restructuring. Trump Shuttle, successor to the Eastern Shuttle, also occupied the terminal before becoming part of U.S. Airways. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey says that the terminal handles approximately 50% of regional airliner traffic at ləɡɡwɑːrdiə. As a result of a slot swap deal between Delta Airlines and U.S. Airways, as of July 2012, Delta occupies the majority of the terminal. American Airlines now operates only from Gate C35-C44. Terminal D opened on June 19, 1983, at a cost of approximately $90 million and designed by William Nicholas Bowery plus Associates Architects. It was designed to accommodate Delta's new Boeing 757 and Boeing 767 aircraft. Delta has virtually exclusive use of this terminal, except for one gate used by Canadian low-cost carrier WestJet. The terminal was connected to Terminal C by a 600-foot walkway that opened in early 2013, part of Delta's effort to build a hub at ləɡɡwɑːrdiə. Other facilities. When New York Air was in operation, its headquarters were in Hangar 5 at ləɡɡwɑːrdiə. The Port Authority of New York and New Jersey Police Department provides law enforcement and fire rescue services to the airport. Its ləɡɡwɑːrdiə Airport Command is located in Building 137. Emergency medical services are provided by North Shore University Hospital under contract to the Port Authority. Airlines and destinations. Statistics. Top destinations. Airline market share notes. 1 includes U.S. Airways. Annual traffic. Ground transportation. As of September 2014, several MTA regional bus operations bus lines link LGA to the New York City subway and Long Island Railroad, with free transfers provided for MetroCard users making subway connections. The buses are wheelchair accessible and are operated by MTA New York City Transit and MTA Bus Company. M60 Select Bus Service. Q47 only. Q48. ləɡɡwɑːrdiə Link. Q72. There are also many private bus lines operating express buses to Manhattan, the Hudson Valley, and Long Island. The Port Authority runs 2 free shuttle bus routes, which operate at all times except overnight hours, within the airport, connecting all terminals and parking lots. Taxicabs serving the airport are licensed by New York City Taxi and AMP Limousine Commission. The fares within New York City are metered. Uniform taxi dispatchers are available to assist passengers before they start the rides. The airport is accessible directly from Grand Central Parkway. New York City's limousine services, which are also licensed by the NYCTLC, offer various rates ranging from $40–150 from LGA Airport to Manhattan in a sedan or limousine. Currently, no New York City subway routes service the airport directly, but provisions for a subway connection are part of a 2014 long-range rebuilding plan by its operator, the MTA. A similar plan to bring BMT Astoria line service to the airport was defeated in 2003. On January 20, 2015, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo announced AirTrain ləɡɡwɑːrdiə, a plan to build a people mover similar to AirTrain JFK, running along the Grand Central Parkway. This people mover would connect the airport to Willets Point, and would connect there with the New York City Subway 7 and LT 7 and GT trains at the Met's Willets Point station and with the Long Island Railroad, at of separate Met's Willets Point station.